Another thing I wanted to highlight was our men's ministry and our women's ministry. There have been different approaches to this in the past. We still have kind of leftover pockets of different programs and different ways of executing that still are kind of going strong throughout our church. With me over the umbrella of that, in no way do we want to stop what has proceeded or get in the way of what's proceeded. But as we move forward, there's certainly a vision I had, and I think the session has, for where men's and women's group goes. So one of the first things I have been focusing on is creating a team for the women's, and we're calling it a creative team for the women's and for the men's. This is made up of individuals in the church who are creative and represent the various generations of our church. Well, why? This group in particular is going to pick the year's worth of bigger events that we will do in men's and women's ministry. Think conferences, think big connection, whether it's locally in-house or beyond. They're going to be dreaming up of what is really going to serve our congregation and their needs when it comes to discipleship. So we have what's called a connections teams that does amazing things like the chili cook-off. These are big church-wide events that are about fun and fellowship and connectivity, whereas the men's and women's discipleship group, this creative team, their job is to create events in places that bring together men and women in ways that serve discipleship. So you'll see some of these ways as the teams have just been selected and they're beginning to meet and they're beginning to plan. Really in the fall, you'll see kind of the execution of what they've been coming up with. Part of me selecting these teams is, quite frankly, I don't think Josh should be making decisions for women, for one. And two, what ends up happening when there's a sole person in control of the vision is things tend to cater to their likes and dislikes. I'm aware at this point of things I like and dislike, but I don't represent all of you. And so we wanted to create teams that do represent you guys so that when we create these events, it's open to all the generations and it makes sense. And ultimately, it's geared at fostering a deeper level of connectivity with the Lord and connectivity with one another. So we are finishing right now the men's team. It'll be probably in a week be finished and ready to go and selecting their events for the year. The women's team has finished and they have already planned their year's worth. And so now we're working on the execution of making this happen. And in a big church, we have to market this well. How do we make sure every single Bible study group and Classic and Vine and all the various people stretched out throughout the week hear it? Well, we have an amazing marketing team here led by Michelle who helps us with that. And so we've been working on the organization side of how often do we market something, right? Because we have so many incredible ministries that are so varied and happening all the time. If you look at our calendar, it's overwhelming. We as a church definitely do an amazing job at helping the community and building within, but somebody has to guide those things and make sure they line up and nobody's stepping on each other's toes. And quite frankly, can I highlight one thing? Our custodial team isn't that large, and so we want to serve them well and honor them well, that they do have days off and they do have a rhythm that just isn't burning them out, and we have done that before. And so we love them and want to make sure that we pace things out as a church together. So my job is the oversight of that, and as each team creates their events, I make sure that they are resourced, I make sure that they are run. And if they need speakers and so on and so forth, I kind of do all that boring background stuff. But ultimately, I have oversight to make sure that we're pacing this well and that they know what they're doing and it fits the overall vision of FPC.